If I had told you a year ago that the most important role-playing game of 2025 would be a turn-based title made by a brand new studio in France with only 30 people, you probably would have laughed at me. On paper, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 should not exist, and it definitely should not be winning Game of the Year awards. We live in an industry dominated by billion-dollar budgets, massive open worlds, and franchises that have been around for 30 years. By all accounts, a small, linear turn-based game should have been crushed. It should have been a footnote, but it wasn't. Instead, it became the benchmark. So the question is, why? Why did millions of us collectively decide to ignore the big polished blockbusters and rally behind this strange, melancholic, unique game? My name is Glaive, and today I want to talk about how Expedition 33 exposed a massive crack in the modern gaming industry and why its success proves that we are finally starting to value soul over perfection. Or maybe we have valued soul over perfection for years, we just haven't talked about it. If you enjoyed these kinds of deep dives into the industry and the games we play, do me a favor and leave a like on the video and consider subscribing if you want to see more. It helps a lot. To understand how this happened though, we have to talk about the year everything changed. Let's rewind to the beginning of 2025. If you were paying attention to the gaming industry back in January or February, the mood was exhausted. It felt like we were trapped in a loop of live service disappointments. You know the type, games that aren't really designed to be fun. They're designed to be a second job. Games that demand you to log in every day to grind for Battle Pass, promising that the real content is coming 6 months later on a roadmap, and it's basically a promise from the developer to finish the game after you already bought it. And frankly, we were tired of buying promises. We were drowning in $70 beta tests. Big publishers were releasing games that were technically broken, soulless, or just desperate to get into your wallet. The industry felt cynical. It felt calculated. It felt like a spreadsheet trying to pretend that it was art. And then in April, it was silence. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 arrived, but it didn't arrive with the usual noise. There was no billion-dollar marketing campaign plastering Gustav's face on cans of energy drinks. There were no influencers screaming at the top of their lungs that this would change the world, or maybe some of them did, I don't know. There was no year one roadmap detailing exactly what DLC you needed to pre-order. It just appeared. And when people finally picked it up, mostly out of curiosity, or maybe because they liked the cover art, something strange happened. You booted up the game, and you realized almost immediately that this wasn't trying to sell you anything else. It didn't feel like a storefront disguised as a video game. It felt like a game. And that is rare in 2025, apparently. That specific moment of realization is what sparked the fire. You knew you were looking at a piece of art made by human beings who wanted to tell a story, rather than a product made by a committee trying to hit a quarterly revenue target. This matters. It matters a lot. The success of Expedition 33 wasn't manufactured by an algorithm or optimized for engagement. It was built on something the industry hasn't valued in a long time: trust.
Like the story itself, it was, since the beginning, we were like, okay, no bloat, no like filler stuff. We are just going straight for what's interesting, and we don't like do anything else and anything more. But then like also like it was about delivering the narrative in a very concise way, but also like hiding a lot of stuff in the side content for the people who want to know more. But like some people just want to just like see the main story and be done with it. So these people will also enjoy the like 30-hour ride. But if you want to really do everything, it's more than 60 hours. Like from what we see from players, it's between 60 and 100 hours.
Sandfall Interactive made a very simple deal with us. They said, give us your attention for 30 hours and we will give you a complete, beautiful experience. We won't waste your time. We won't ask for your credit card halfway through. In 2025, that simple act of respect felt like a revolution. But trust only gets you through the door. You stay because of the world itself. And honestly, just look at it. Most big budget games today are obsessed with looking real. They give us hyper-realistic forests, perfectly rendered puddles, or military bases that look exactly like, well, military bases. I mean, it's impressive, sure, but it is also kind of boring, I'm not gonna lie. It is sterile. Expedition 33 went in a completely different direction.
So the game is an RPG with a modern graphics, and the concept of the story itself is that it takes place in the Belle Epoque, France, which is the early 20th century in France, in a distorted version of Paris. And the concept of the story is that everybody in the world lives in the city called Lumière, which is an island version of Paris. And in the end of the world, you see the giant monolith with a number on it. And every year, the paintress, which is a big entity living at the bottom of the monolith, wakes up, repaints the number, and it goes down by one each year. And every time she paints this number, people of that age disappear. So people disappear younger and younger, and you are sent as an expedition to try to reach the paintress, destroy her, so she cannot paint the number down anymore.
They built their world around the Belle Epoque, and I don't know if I pronounced that correctly.
Belle Epoque.
But for those who skipped history classes, that is basically France in the early 1900s. It was a time of extreme optimism, beautiful arts, and stunning architecture. But Sandfall took that beauty and rotted it from the inside out. The world feels less like a backdrop and more like a crime scene. You see this elegant French architecture, but it is melting. It is drowning this surreal, impossible paint. It goes beyond having cool graphics. An atmosphere hangs over you like a fog, like heavy, beautiful sadness. It resonates with people because it feels like a memory of a place that never existed. This commitment to the vibe over technical perfection carries over to the cinematics. And now I'm going to be real with ya. The lip syncing in this game is not great. Sometimes the characters' mouths move like they're in a dubbed kung fu movie from the 80s.
Feet? Really?
Don't worry. He's not interested in human fate.
In a normal review, that would be a negative point. But here, you barely notice it after an hour. I mean, who cares, am I right? But if we're really gonna get into it, why? Because the acting and the lighting are doing all of the heavy lifting. They use a technique like a strong contrast between light and dark. Think of those old paintings where a single candle lights up a face in a pitch black room. The game uses this everywhere, hiding the lower budget textures in the shadows and highlighting the emotion in the light. This is the arguments for style over fidelity. And if you don't know, fidelity is just how many pixels you can cram into a screen. Fidelity is expensive, but style is a choice. So many AAA games today cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and they end up looking like a plastic action figures smashed together in a sandbox. They look expensive, don't get me wrong, but they feel hollow. Expedition 33 might have rough edges, it might have a few stiff animations, but it feels like a moving oil painting. And I think most of us would take a messy painting over a perfect plastic toy any day of the week. However, a painting can only make you feel so much before you need to hear it. If the art style is the body of Expedition 33, the soundtrack is the blood pumping through it. We need to talk about Lorien Testard's score. And if I said that wrong, I'm sorry again. In most games, music is treated as wallpaper. It is there to fill the silence while you walk from point A to point B, or maybe you're in a dialogue. Epic music track number 4. When a boss shows up, oh my god, boss music. But 5 minutes after you turn off the console, you couldn't hum it if you tried. Here, the music is effectively a main character. Lorien wrote a requiem, not a background noise, and he made a brilliant choice to center almost everything around vocals, specifically the voice of Alice Dufour. You do not need to understand the lyrics to understand the feeling. It is haunting. It sticks to your ribs. It is the kind of music that makes you put the controller down and just sit in the menu screen for 10 minutes because you don't want to interrupt the song.
I can share my experience also with this music. I received it, and I was literally like my jaw was on the floor. Like after 2 minutes of listening, I was like, is this one of the best songs I've heard in my entire life? Did it just happen? And it's like, yeah, we knew it was the main theme. It's just like, it's my favorite. I have a lot of favorite songs in this game, but this takes top 1.
So naturally, when the Grammy nominations came out for 2026, surely this was a lock for best score, right? Well, wrong. The Recording Academy took one look at this beautiful, heartbreaking original composition and said, nah, let's nominate Star Wars and Avatar instead. And look, I get it. Star Wars is Star Wars. It has big horns and it sounds expensive, but nominating Avatar Frontiers of Pandora over Expedition 33, that is not a judgment on quality. That is a judgment on brand recognition. It is the industry saying they prefer a safe corporate product over something that actually has a pulse. It felt like a slap in the face to everyone who played it. I mean, come on. But here's the funny thing about awards. They are just plastic statues. Or maybe it's gold. I don't know. I never held a trophy. But they gather dust. The real award, the one that actually matters, is what happened next. While the Academy was busy patting the big franchises on the back, Sandfall announced the Painted Symphony Concert Tour. They booked massive venues in London, Berlin, and Paris. And guess what? They didn't stop at selling tickets. Oh no, they sold out. People are traveling across countries, spending their hard-earned money just to sit in the room and hear this music played live. That doesn't happen for Avatar. That happens when you create something that touches people's souls. The Grammys might have ignored it, but the community didn't. And frankly, a sold-out concert hall sounds a lot better than an acceptance speech anyway. But if the music gets you in the door, the gameplay is is what locks it behind you. For the better part of the decade, the industry has been trying to convince us that turn-based game combat is dead. We were told it is too slow for modern audiences. Critics called it outdated, implying that picking an attack from a menu is something we should have left behind in the 2010s. Like the emo phase, right? We gotta go from it, guys. The argument was always the same. It is boring. And to be fair, in a lot of games, they are kind of right. You press attack, and then you watch a cutscene of your character getting hit in the face while you check Twitter on your phone. Follow me on Twitter, by the way. Expedition 33 looked at that problem and realized something simple. The problem was never the menus. The problem was the waiting. And so they fixed it. They introduced what they call the reactive system. It sounds fancy, I know, but it just means that you don't have to take a nap during the enemy's turn.
Let's talk about the combat. The goal was kind of always to be turn-based, but when did the idea of like making it more active with the dodge and parry system come into the process?
Super early. Can't remember when exactly, but basically I was playing Sekiro on the side when I was working on learning Unreal. So I had my turn base in place, and just like one night I was just like, why can't I parry in my game? That was boring.
When a monster swings a sword at you, you are able to parry it. When it breathes fire, you can jump. When it charges, you have to dodge. And suddenly, the spectator role is gone. You are present. The result is a weird, brilliant mix of feelings. It has the strategy of chess. You are still planning your next move, thinking about cooldowns and mana, but it has the tension of Sekiro. You are constantly one bad reflex away from dying. It demands your respect. And if you think I'm just being nostalgic or hyping up a gimmick, consider this next point very carefully. Reports came out recently that executives from Square Enix held meetings with the team at Sandfall Interactive. Let that sink in for a second. Square Enix, the house that built Final Fantasy, the company that practically invented the genre, and then spent the last 10 years trying to turn it into an action movie. They looked at this tiny French team of 30 people working out at a small office, and they said, teach us how you did that. Or maybe they just, you know, trying to buy the company or something like that. I don't know. When the giants of the industry are taking notes from the underdogs, you know it's not a fluke. It is a wake-up call. It proves that the genre wasn't dead. It was just sleeping, waiting for someone brave enough to wake it up. And now I'm not going to sit here and pretend this game is perfect. It isn't. If we're being completely honest, Expedition 33 has problems, like real problems. There are moments where the camera gets stuck inside a wall and you can't see what you're fighting. There are difficulty spikes that feel closer to punishment than a challenge. And if you put the character animation side by side with something from Naughty Dog or Rockstar, this game looks, well, a little bit stiff. But here's the strange thing. I think those flaws are exactly why we love it. Hear me out. Think about the last big AAA game shooter you played. It was probably technically flawless. The frame rate was locked at 60. The textures were 4K. The lighting was ray traced to perfection. It was a perfect, shiny product, and it probably made you feel absolutely nothing. A polished game often feels safe. It feels like it was made in a lab to ensure nobody gets frustrated and nobody asks questions. It feels corporate. Expedition 33, though, it feels human. The flaws exist because the team was trying to do something they didn't quite have the budget for, but they did it anyway. They prioritized the vision over the polish. The cracks in the pavement show you that human hands laid the concrete.
They selected us because we sounded right for the character, but yeah, none of those games did I go into going, oh, I hope this wins an award. Do I hope this wins an award? Of course, because the passion and work this tiny team have put into this game is extraordinary, and they are the most magical group of human beings you've ever come across. They're brilliant, and so they deserve every bit of recognition they get.
And clearly, the players agree. The fact that this game is sweeping awards isn't because we are blind to the bugs. We see them.
We do not care.
We voted for ambition. We voted for heart. We made an honest trade with Sandfall Interactive, and the deal was, you give us a story we remember for the rest of our lives, and in exchange, we will forgive you if the camera gets stuck in a rock every now and then.
I too am, but I'm also wee. So the wee balances the.
You might say you're a bit, wee-woo there.
You really get me, Verso.
I'm a bit, wee-woo myself.
I think that's a pretty fair trade. So when you look at the scoreboard for 2025, the math doesn't really make any sense. On one side, you have the titans of the industry. These are studios with thousands of employees, budgets bigger than the GDP of a small country, and marketing campaigns that blanket the entire planet. But on the other side, you have Sandfall Interactive, a team of about 30 people in France, working with a fraction of that money, making a game in a genre that everyone said was dead. By all logic, they should have been crushed. They should have been a footnote, but they weren't. They won. And I think the reason they won is because they stopped chasing the ghost that the rest of the industry has been obsessed with for decades. We call it infinite engagement, and that is just corporate speak for a game that never ends. The big publishers don't want you to beat their game. They want you to live in it. They want you on a hamster wheel grinding for loot, leveling up a battle pass, logging in every day until the sun burns out. Sandfall looked at that hamster wheel and said no. They succeeded by making a game that was designed to end. They understood that the story has meaning if it has a conclusion. They respected our time enough to let us finish the journey and put the controller down. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is not a perfect video game. As we have discussed, it is messy. It is incredibly sad, and sometimes, yes, it is a little bit broken. But it has a soul. In a year filled with perfect, shiny products that felt like they were made by robots, this was the one that felt like it was made by people with passion. And in 2025, a game with a soul is the only thing that truly deserves to be called Game of the Year. There's an old saying in this industry, polish gets you reviews, but soul gets you fans. But I'm curious in what you think. Are we finally getting a shift where players value creativity more than technical perfection? Or has it been the case the whole time and we just never talked about it? Let me know in the comments below, but that is all from me, 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗆, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers!